Hey everybody, and welcome back to Dudes Brunch. It's a podcast about pop culture, internet garbage, and black coffee. I'm your host, Taylor Olmstead, and with me, it's Tyler Reed. Tyler, what did you have for brunch today?
Hey everybody. My brunch, once again, inconsequential. However, news, life update, get my scheduled shifts switched around so I'm not working at the coffee shop on Sunday. So brunch might actually be brunch again. But I will say, to fill the void, I taught my mom how to make pour-overs. Her Mother's Day gift was my grinder, and I bought myself a new grinder. So I taught them how to, hey, coffee, you gift that stuff. I saw that look, Sean. I saw that look. We're not talking about like $10 grinders here. This is an expensive grinder, which is perfectly acceptable. People like to give refurbished ones. Yeah. And I gave her a scale as well.
Yeah, if you don't get it, I don't need to explain it then. I'll let the listeners...
Yeah, just stew in that, listeners. But anyway.
And a pound of coffee and a scale. Basically everything you need to make good coffee.
Or deal drugs.
I mean...
Can't really walk that one back, can you?
I mean, listeners at home, I'm sure, will understand the difference between grinders here.
Well, speaking... Also, do not put your mom on Grindr.
Don't.
Because we will not be able to walk back this intro segment.
Ooh, man, this is already a train wreck. I'm just gonna forcibly move on.
I had a breakfast brew with bacon. Bye.
You know what? Forcibly move on. Sean the Hiccup Man Evans is here. Sean, what did you have for brunch besides an imbalance of air pressure between your lungs and your stomach?
All right, Bill Nye.
This morning, we were in New York, so we went to a place called Lula's Bagels. Lula's Bagels. And what their donut lacked in moistness, their shop made up for in aesthetic pleasingness.
So, I have two questions. Question number one, you were in New York this morning?
Yes.
Like the city? Or upstate?
Yes, Taylor.
You were in the city?
Yes, I was in Brooklyn.
Did you take Amtrak or did you drive up there?
We drove.
Damn, that's a long drive.
No, it's only like 4 hours.
Oh, for some reason I always think it takes like 6. I don't know why.
Who's geographically challenged now, Taylor?
Well, depending on traffic, it could take longer, Tyler. Thank you.
That's right.
But then my second follow-up question, you got a donut from a bagel place?
That's what it was called, and yes, I got a donut because it looked more appetizing than any of the bagel offerings that they had.
That sounds like a bad time then. If the bagels were bad, but the donut was, well, I don't know.
The bagels did look good. I did not have a bagel because as frequent listeners will know, I am not a breakfast person.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
But we did get to sit at this awesome counter that it was made of like old type trays, you know, like for printing presses that they had the letters in. And they had like little hardware implements inside of them, like paper clips and nails and stuff. And the glass top, it was pretty neat. The coffee was very good.
Nice. Did you take a picture of any of these things?
No.
Well, of course, in the 21st century, if you did take a picture of it, it doesn't really exist at all now, does it?
No. Yes, you're right.
How unfortunate. None of this is real.
The evidence if it's not on Instagram, huh?
That's right. Gotta get it for the gram. Gotta get them likes, though.
Gotta have the beat space. Gotta show that off.
So Taylor, what'd you do this weekend with the exception of getting the haircut that Haley has from Paramore?
Hey!
Hell yeah. Wait.
I did get a haircut. I am your host, Taylor. I did get a haircut. And for brunch this morning, I tried to make an omelet. But man, I don't know what happened. Something in that omelet was not right. I don't know if my eggs had gone bad or if my cheese had gone bad or what. But I took one bite into that sucker and I was like, no.
Are you sure it was just the quality of the product? Did you just make it wrong?
No, there was some kind of like sour taste to it that something in there had gone bad. So I threw that away and made a smoothie instead, which was super delicious.
Was it an egg smoothie?
It was an egg smoothie.
You took all those parts of the omelet and just made a smoothie. Protein.
Yeah, that's right.
That would be a great source of protein, but no, it was a fruit smoothie.
God, I pulled that one out of my asshole. God, I'm so good.
This is also the person who gave us a lecture before the show started about how LaCroix has flavor.
Oh, Tyler. Your culinary choices are just so confusing.
The semblance of flavor, okay? It's
Oh, okay. All right, the semblance of flavor.
So our main topic for this week's show is another anime. Somehow it is just the spring of anime here on Dude's Brunch. This week we talked about Aggretsuko, which is a anime that is on Netflix. Was this originally produced for Netflix? Does anybody know? It was. Yeah. Okay. Which is kind of interesting. It definitely is a stark contrast in a lot of ways from Devilman Crybaby, which we watched last month. I don't really remember who brought this topic forward.
It was definitely Sean.
Okay.
Sean definitely watched it first.
So, Sean, do you want to, I guess, talk about how you came to this and maybe give the folks some background on what it is?
So it's an anime about a woman, Red Panda, who goes to her job and she is very stressed out. So she deals with her stress by doing death metal karaoke and talking about how she's stressed out about her job and other life problems. And there's other kind of stereotypical characters that come in to play, and it has a very, well, I don't want to say very, it has a BoJack Horseman feel to it a little bit in reference to other episodes where we talked about BoJack, but it's karaoke and metal karaoke at that, and a red panda and a bunch of cute animals.
So as you would imagine, she has this grotesque appearance when doing her performance, and likened to, oh goodness, I can't recall the band that kind of started that look, but it's generally like death metal vocals is I guess would be the best way to describe them. But to put some more information on it, this is a Sanrio character originally, which, if you're not familiar, is famously known for making Hello Kitty. So all the characters seem very well designed. You look at that character and you say, "Wow, that's a cool looking character." You can identify with it in some way. But this is a company that basically lives and dies off of making characters that you can relate to, or you can feel like, or like, oh, that's cute, or that's cool looking.
So Sean had us watch this based on actually Tyler's video from the episode we did with Brett Gunter a couple weeks ago with the death metal ramen commercial. And having only that as backdrop, when I watched the show this weekend, I fell for this show more than I expected to. During the first episode, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get into this. The first episode is like a true pilot. It just introduces the premise and doesn't really have any kind of plot. But then once you start getting into the actual plot of the show in the second episode, which is pretty easy because all the episodes are only 15 minutes, it really starts motoring along pretty quick. And it's a fast watch. There's a lot going on. Like Sean said, the characters are really identifiable as like office worker stereotypes. The hippopotamus creature in particular, whose name I can't remember, who's kind of like the office gossip, is my favorite because I have totally worked with that woman. And I think that's really kind of like what this show lives and dies on. Like, the death metal parts of it are really fun and kind of like give it flavor. But the characters are so relatable and so like they're over the top versions of people in the way that I think the cast of The Office was at like the first and second seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So like even if it's a Japanese office, it feels like you still understand the problems just as well. Because I'm sure there's small things that you're like, they do that in the office, but like you kind of it feels so universal, and I think that's what makes it so easy to get into, is that it feels like no matter even if you've never worked in an office, you still feel like you can relate to what's going on in some way, which is really, I think, a strength of the show.
So while we're on this train of characters, what characters stood out to you two?
What was the name of the fox, the girl?
Feneko?
Yeah, at work, my coworker said that I'm like Feneko.
That you're a total downer and you're constantly citing statistics to make people sad?
Kind of. And I have a similar laugh.
I could see it.
I also like that character, but for a different reason, because she's kind of like the one that's like kind of like planning and like kind of like is playing 3-dimensional chess. And that's what I kind of like. She reminds me of character Susie from Little Witch Academia, which is another amazing show. But it feels like she's always kind of got something going on. And it kind of feels nice when when her plan kind of unravels or something bad happens that she's not expecting, because she's always kind of feels like she's one step ahead.
I know I already mentioned the Hippo character whose name I can't remember, but of the core cast, I think my favorite is Gory, the highly successful gorilla who works in marketing. Not because she works in marketing like I do, but because she and Washimi are these like fierce executive women who like parade around the office and show off all the time, but then Gory like is also super vulnerable and hilarious. Like there's this one really great scene when they're like executing a plan and doing a montage, and Gory walks down the hallway by herself and she's like, this walk is way less intimidating when I do it by myself, and she just turns around and walks away. I was like, this is a great character, and I love every minute that she's on screen.
And I think it's like that introduction to those characters. I feel like when you start to watch, you're like, what's going to happen? Like, because you know they're in there for a reason. Like, why are they in there? And then over the course of time, I mean, do we care about spoilers? This is like a 15-minute show. Like, you're going to get
we don't care about spoilers.
Okay. So, like, they eventually, Retsuko starts doing yoga because she wants to get in shape, because she wants to get a man, so she doesn't have to work at the office anymore. And then so the business women are also taking yoga. And so, you know, it starts as like, she's like, oh, I don't want to interact with my superiors. But they're actually kind of like, oh, I just want to talk to her. Like, they have like this mutual thing that feels so common. And so then they totally like let down their guard eventually, and then they become like best friends. And you're like, hell yeah, this is so sick. And it's like it's almost like this level of mentorship that feels so good to watch, and you're like, hell yeah, I love this. This feels so good. You get to see them be like different. You get to see how they act when they're not doing their power pose.
Yeah, I really liked that, the kind of like breaking down of the walls there. And Washimi does a lot less of that, but I think it's kind of important that there's one of them that's still a little bit firm. But I do really like how you see both sides of those characters and how they warm up to Retsuko. I also want to talk briefly about the voice talent. I've watched...
you never asked Tyler who he relates to the most.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Tyler, who do you relate to the most?
I mean, I'm probably Retsuko, right? I feel like that's me, but because it's like
forever doubting yourself and also being really into death metal. Yeah, that's on brand.
Yeah, my favorite part was when she was talking with her friend who's like, oh, I just get a job and I just quit and then I live off that money, and she wants to open like an import store, and she's like imagining like what it'd be like to have like to like work at a store. She's like, oh, that'd be so nice. And you're like, I can like imagine me be like, I don't want to work at like an office. I want to work at someplace cool. Like that's totally how I feel like all the time.
I was seeing you more as protein kangaroo. Yoga kangaroo.
Oh yeah.
No, I was seeing Tyler as space cadet, honestly.
Oh no, not me. No.
I found out that, so I heard in the office that, and because we watched it with dubs, not subs.
Oh.
And that apparently.
Oh, I did too. I watch it with dubs.
He is called, in the subs, he's actually called Out of Pocket Prince.
That is perfect. I love that.
Hold on, what does that mean? Hold on.
Because he never has his receipts.
Oh.
That's fantastic. I love it. But let's talk about the dubs, because I've watched a little bit of anime, not a lot, but the dubbed anime I've watched, I have never heard voice talent this good. The people they got for this are incredible, especially Erica Mendez, who does the voice of Retsuko. Like, she's so emotive, and she has such a sass to her voice when she needs to, that she really just takes that character to another level. Tara Platt, who does the voice for Washimi, also just really like takes that part and runs with it, and I was really impressed with both of them.
I will say that, and it seems like this is sort of a common sentiment amongst people that have watched this, that I'm really kind of upset that they decided to have a male vocalist do the death metal stuff, because I feel like there's no shortage of well, I guess by that like majorities, like there are female like death metal vocalists, But of course, there's probably more men that are doing it. But I feel like there's a decent amount of women that do those kind of vocals. You know, like I would love for like the girl from Arc Enemy to do that. And in preparation for this episode, I listened to like a shit ton of Arc Enemy, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I can. It's not that, you know, it's a subtle difference, but I think it would have been really cool. But I don't think that takes away from it. It just feels like a missed opportunity. A little disappointing.
I would agree. I think I found it really kind of distracting the first couple of times because Erica Mendez's voice that she uses for Ritsuko is very feminine. And then this clearly masculine death metal vocal comes in, and it felt kind of out of place. At first I thought it was just like her karaokeing over a male vocal because she's in a karaoke room, but then it becomes clear that that's actually her death metal voice, and I was like, well, this is kind of strange. But
maybe that was intentional. I'd be curious to see, or curious to know what the intent was. If they tried a female vocalist, maybe they couldn't get anybody. You know, I don't know. But
it's hard telling.
I mean, right. I don't think it overall doesn't detract from my experience.
Oh, no, not at all. So now, knowing now that it's from the company that did Hello Kitty, the art style makes a lot more sense. Because throughout, I was really surprised and impressed by the art and how bold it was and bright and the thick lines. Like, it just felt more, not more American, but definitely different from a lot of anime I've watched. Is there, I don't know, Tyler, is this like, how stylistically different is this? Is this like a different category? What are we talking about here?
So I would say that it's almost sort of like an emerging sort of like style for doing this. I think there are shows that are specifically intended to be sort of like comedy focused or like vocal focused. Like, for example, like this would not work for like Dragon Ball Z, because it's like, you know, if you're basically doing this in like Illustrator, you're animating like vector, like you can't get the level of depth, you know, like how you draw a thing, you know, like. So I think the intent is that they're trying to do simple animations. Like if you notice how their jaws move, it's very like, I don't want to say one dimensional, but you know, there's not a lot of like complexity there.
It's a lot closer to like South Park,
right? And so I think that's kind of the point. And there's a handful of shows that have slipped my mind at the moment that basically do a similar thing, and it may not be a majority, but it's sort of like kind of common for sort of like animes that intend to be fun, like very, very joke based. So I wish I could find some examples. Maybe I'll do that as we're talking.
Sean, what did you think of the art style? I know you have watched a little bit more anime than I have.
It was animated. I really can't give very good commentary on this one, but I liked it. I mean, a little overly cartoony for me, but that's fine because it was an overly cartoony show.
So let's talk about the plot a little bit then. We've already spoiled a little bit, but I guess if you are really concerned about spoilers for Aggretsuko, now would be the time to probably skip ahead to the internet garbage. But in the show, we begin with Aggretsuko at her job, which he hates. And in the pilot, like I said, it's just kind of an overview of her life and how her job sucks, and then she goes to the karaoke bar and sings death metal. But then as the show goes on, she starts to come up with all these schemes to get out of her job. So at first she's gonna join a small business venture, and then that backfires, and then she tries sucking up to her boss, and then she tries to get a husband so that she can get married and not have to work anymore, and that doesn't exactly work either. And at one point she gets her chauvinist boss reported for sexual harassment, but then it backfires because he finds out that she was the one that had reported him. This first season of the show, it's only 10 episodes, they're each only 15 minutes. It covers a lot of ground, and it does so in a way that's, in my opinion, very earnest, but it still kind of works for me. And I was curious what you guys thought about the plot and its ambitions.
Let's see. Plot and ambitions. So, I mean, it goes from...
Like, it felt a little rushed at points to me, I guess. This is what I'm trying to say.
No, I thought it was fine. If we were talking about that, I mean, I feel the plot ends a little abruptly at the end of the season. But I definitely feel like it's going to get renewed, so we can kind of hash that out a little bit more. Because you get to, Space Cadet / Out-of-Pocket Prince, who ends the season opening up to a room full of plants, which almost felt like an Arrested Development call out a little bit. But yeah, I think we need to find out what happens there. And I thought there was going to be more plotline development between her and the executives. Like maybe they would take her a little bit more under her wing, but that didn't happen. And they had the whole fight scene in the karaoke bar, and then the boss doesn't remember anything. So it's like, here we go.
Yeah, it really did feel in that finale like they were leaving a lot of threads open.
Mm-hmm. I guess... I mean, for me, I think I knew kind of what I was getting myself into, and I think that for the type of show that it is, I felt like there wasn't gonna, like, as a standalone piece, I feel like they got everything done they wanted to get done, and they had something interesting every episode. Because, like, I feel like every episode, I was on the edge of my seat to watch the next episode. If then say each episode is 30 minutes, and they had to fluff it out. So it would be longer. We had to have something happen. They have a transformation sequence where she puts on her Power Ranger outfit. I didn't need it to be longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
So maybe I enjoyed the sort of the conciseness of it.
I definitely don't think the individual episodes need to be longer.
But you're right that it goes real south real quick. Because we're talking like within an hour, her boss goes from, well, I don't like you, to, man, I really want you to never work here ever again. Like furious at her existence.
Yeah, it really does escalate pretty fast. But I don't know, like at the same time, I think you're right. Like if it didn't go anywhere, the show would not be as good as it is. Like, what makes it effective is its speed.
Because you feel the impact, you feel the results of everything that happens almost immediately after it happens. Like, because it was like talks to the CEO. Next day, he's like, ching! Hey everyone, I'm in a good mood now. I'm the boss. Everyone's like, fuck. This can't keep doing this. Is in the same episode? Do they have the duel? I don't remember. I feel like maybe that's the following episode.
I think that's the following episode. Yeah.
Okay, but still, I felt like those were probably an episode apart.
Right.
It's just not a lot.
Yeah, and it was interesting too that like the show manages to get a message across, and I think at moments it does wax a little bit preachy, but on the whole, it still comes across really relatable. Which is kind of impressive for a show that's tackling as many issues as it is so head on, right? Like overworking and toxic work environments and sexual harassment and women needing fulfillment in male relationships and, you know, how to be an empowered executive woman. Like, those are just a few big plot points. That doesn't even count in some of the smaller things about, like, Aggretsuko and her body, or, like, her male coworker having a crush on her, or the awkwardness of office dating events. Like, it just goes on and on and on and on. We just listed 8 of them right there.
That doesn't even include Fenneco's entire MO, which is just stalking people, and then, like, the person who she's, like, trying to get the goods on, which is, I forget her name, but the doe, who is like sort of like managing her profile, like to curate it to get boys and to like also impress the boss. And you're like, that's all, you know, like that entire character is like an entire like set of problems that is distributed into probably your entire office somehow, like tens of people.
Yeah, there's a whole lot there. What did you think about that, Sean? Did you feel like it communicates its societal messages well, or?
I mean, from what little I know about Japanese work culture, I felt like it stuck to the stereotype of that pretty well. The rigid hierarchy and the expectation of lower employees versus higher employees. But I think it was relatable for everybody who's new in their career or can remember that time where you're like, figuring out the dynamic of your workplace can be difficult sometimes to figure out these structures, but eventually you find people that you click with, that help you through your tough times, and maybe they get you a little bit. Like it's nice when she meets the executives and they're like all into her dating life and stuff, and they kind of talk to her about not being able to just find a husband right away and ending her career so quickly that it's more complicated than that. which might be a theme they explore in the second season. But
and those are just two distinct relationships. The one between like Feneko and I forget his name, but like her coworkers, Haida, yeah, and like they don't really have a lot to offer in regards to advice because they're kind of at the same level, but they can understand her struggle within that context, but they don't really have anything to offer like in regards to like, here, this is the best thing to do for you, like as opposed to like the executives can offer. And so like they almost get a sense of reward from helping someone who's younger than them that like to help them show the way. And so that's like a different kind of relationship. It's kind of like maybe people who like to teach like maybe not like high schoolers, but like middle schoolers, you know, you can really kind of like almost impact them in a really significant way because like you're almost this monolith, like they can't even fathom their experience, and somehow you can kind of help really form them and really kind of grow like a bond, you know, like at an early stage.
Right.
Or high school, I don't know, or even college. It depends. It depends on the age range, but like.
Well, and it's a professional mentorship thing too, right? Like, yeah, we're seeing that become more and more of a thing in the business world, and I think it's really cool of this show to play on that relationship so heavily as kind of a new thing in the workplace, but also as an all-female relationship, right? These two older women working with this younger woman. And you get the impression that Washimi has kind of been around this track twice now because she's also kind of mentoring Gori in a way. And so you get this kind of like stair-step dynamic to it, which is really neat. Like, I love the whole section of the show where Gori just got dumped and is like completely wallowing in her sorrows because it shows like she doesn't have it together either. And Washimi apparently does, but I can only assume that in the second season we're going to see her go through some kind of crisis too. And I think that's probably what makes this show so relatable, is that every character has their crisis at some point in this show, even if it's really small. Like, everybody has some kind of problem they have to overcome. But let's talk a little bit about vignettes as well, because there are a lot of really great just little moments in this show, like tiny little doses of relatability that I think we can all kind of enjoy. I'm curious what stood out to you guys in that way.
Let's see. Let's take a peek.
I think one of my favorites is in the episode where they start doing yoga. Retsuko turns the older woman down for going to dinner because she's intimidated. And then the next time you see them, they're like extremely distraught because they feel like she hates them and doesn't want to be around them and is too cool for them. And it's like such a great reminder of this thing in adult life where you like invite someone to something and then they just say no, and maybe they have like some other stuff going on, but in your head you're like, oh my god, this coworker totally hates me, they don't want anything to do with me, they never want to see me outside of work, I'm such a terrible person. But that's not the way it is at all.
I totally felt that. I was audibly distraught. I was like, just hang out with them. Just do it. You're blowing your chance. You gotta do it. Please.
And her excuse is so lame, like, oh, I have some leftovers in the fridge. And they even call it out in the next episode. They're like, you know, you gotta take care of those leftovers. It's like, oh, everything about this is so awkward. I hate it.
I think when Finnick goes at dinner with
the singles awareness or the single mixer,
the single mixer, and she meets the bobcat, and I'm thinking like, oh, she's gonna hate this dude, like there's no way this is gonna work. And then he says like the stupidest compliment ever, like, you have nice ears or something stupid, and she's like, oh my god, I love you, you're the greatest thing ever. And I just thought like, oh my god, is that what I look like?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Need to have higher standards.
I'm trying to think of which one of her vocal sections is my favorite. I can't. There's so many good ones.
There's so many.
There's at least one per episode.
Surely you have to just have a favorite moment from the show.
Oh, there was, as a someone who works in customer service, I thought it was pretty funny. In the second episode, Aggretsuko or Jesus fuck. Aggretsuko is being like sort of hassled by one of this clothing shop customer service representative. Just keeps pushing her, and it's like sometimes I feel like I have moments like that where I just like I'm just trying to get like the information to people, and they just get like, please stop. So like I feel like I've been on both ends of that situation, and I can really relate to like when she just like breaks down and just gets fucking pissed.
If you need anything, I'll be right over here. Do you need anything? I'm right over here. Yeah. If you need anything, I'll be right over here. Yeah.
Oh, and that episode was also great because they like nail like down her personality, because they're like, you buy something in the store just because you feel bad, like God, I forget what the other two are. But
yeah, that whole exchange is great where they're like talking about how responsible she is. Yeah, I love that.
But I'm definitely the person that buys something in the store just because I go in, because I feel bad to leave out without anything.
You would. So any closing thoughts on Aggretsuko? Maybe recommendations for folks who haven't watched it yet?
Just watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out to 2.5 hours long exactly. It's like the length of a Marvel movie. Just take a Saturday and put it on when you're, I don't know, like checking your email or something, or doing some other menial task. Like I watched it while I was cooking and eating dinner and cleaning the dishes in one go. Like it's a great quick little watch, and it was a lot of fun. I really hope there's another season.
It's fundamentally changed Catherine and I's music listening habits, because Catherine and I, like last night, we were like sifting through like metal bands, so like, which one do you want to listen to? It's surprisingly palatable how good the metal segments are, and I think it's almost just worth it just to hear those for like the comedic value, because they're so fun, they're so good, they're so like well performed. Although I was harping on it for not being a female vocalist, it's still like really fucking sick. And I think for the time it takes to get to watch, you get a lot out of it. You'll laugh, you'll cry. You'll listen to Dimmu Borgir on purpose. Right. Team players lose. There it is.
That's your favorite metal segment?
Yeah.
That one was really good. My favorite metal segment was when she's screaming about how marriage is a lie, and she didn't want to give those people her 30,000 yen.
Oh, yeah.
Yo.
That one was awesome. All right, everybody, it's time for This Week in Internet Garbage. And this week, we have a low-budget music video for you. This video is called Don't Insult, and it is about veganism.
Oh, no. Taylor, why?
If you gain weight from too much chow, I will never call you a cow. I respect you and cows.
Don't use cow as an insult.
If you eat every single fig, I will never call you a pig. I respect you and pigs.
Don't use pig as an insult. Respect every animal. Don't be speciesist. Never use the name of an animal as an insult for anyone.
Man, you keep racking up all this time that you owe me my life back, man. Yes.
The running tally's got to be like at least 20
hours.
minutes, right?
Hours. So in this video, John Sakars, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, talks about how you should not be a speciesist and you shouldn't use the names of animals as insults, which I guess is kind of a decent sentiment, sort of, but he delivers it in a weird way where he has these two people who I'm gonna presume are his parents. I don't really know. They look significantly older than him, delivering these very monotone raps about, if you avoid thoughts that are deep, I will never call you a sheep. I respect you and sheep. And so on and so forth like that for 2 minutes and 24 seconds. I guess what I'm trying to say here is, Sean, I would never call you a dog because I respect you and dogs.
But you're my dog. Isn't Randy Jackson? He's a
speciesist is what he is.
A speciesist.
Well, if you call somebody man, what is that?
I mean, but if we use your name as a verb and say, like, man, that topic got Shawned, are we being namist? I guess maybe we just shouldn't have descriptors for anything, is what I'm realizing here.
Taylor, you are not very nice.
What can I say? I'm not as woke as my vegan brethren.
Oh. Some people can't wake up. Wake me up inside.
I can't wake up.
Some people
save me.
But no, now that we've gone through this horrible millennial meta humor rabbit hole, what you guys think of this charming music video from John?
You know, it's probably not the cringiest thing I've ever seen.
High praise.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right. And as far as PowerPoints, this is very good.
They really use the tool well.
I usually only give like music about 10 seconds of time before I decide whether I like it or not. But I gave this song a full minute before I looked at it and said, oh my God, how close is it to being over?
I do love how he somehow can't get his own hook right. Like, you'll notice when he's singing the hook, if you can call that singing, he, like, cuts in an overdub of the last two words, and the beat skips by, like, a quarter beat every time. And it really just adds to the wonderful aesthetic of this video. It feels as though it were produced in maybe 1998, but the crazy thing is, the song came out in 2017.
Wow.
Still fresh, you know. This is still a steamy pile of garbage.
I should say on a positive note that I admire his passion and his will to get it out to the people, everybody, by putting it on YouTube and making it kind of rhythmic and trying very hard. I don't think that the message of veganism is going to be spread very far through it. But I do like farm animals. And as a wedding idea, Sarah and I proposed that we would have a petting area at our wedding to relieve the stress of people if they wanted to pet an animal. So I think it's very soothing.
I'm just saying, I also had in my quiver for tonight's internet garbage a person who made almost 400 videos of himself just eating carrots. So
where do you
be glad that I was charitable to you this evening?
You're a pervert, you know that?
I mean, I feel like we already knew that Taylor was like this. That he was, in some ways, almost a glutton for punishment. He said, please, I want to have you listen to this very bad thing. Please listen to it. You're like, all right, Taylor, we are in high school, so I guess I'm going to listen to whatever you throw at me.
Right. Minnie sends me stuff on Apple Music all the time, and he's like, oh, this is good. And he can't realize why I'm like, did you listen to it? And I'm like, no.
Oh, come on.
Because once a week I have to get on this show and just take away minutes from my life I'm never going to get back.
In retrospect, that one Death Grip song is not that great, but the Death Grips are actually not that bad. I would almost say good. I accidentally listened to a few of their songs. I enjoyed it, so...
Now that I've been verbally assaulted by my co-hosts, it's time to round the show out with another round of Shameless Plugs. So I guess we'll start with Tyler Reed. Tyler, where can the people find you?
You always make it sound like a decision, but it's been this way for hundreds of episodes.
Not hundreds, but over 100.
And 100. Hey everyone, you can find my design illustration work at tylerdreed.com. And you can find me on the socials as TDR Design on Instagram and and Twitter.
Sean Evans, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at RealCashOtter.
And, of course, you can find me on the socials as at TC Olmstead. You can find the show on the socials as at Dudes Brunch. If you really like what we do here, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or recommend us on Overcast. And if you have a piece of horrible trash from the internet that you want me to make Tyler and Sean watch, you can tweet it at us as well or post it in our subreddit, Our Dudes Brunch. Other than that, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Dudes Brunch.
I've discovered why people drink LaCroix. Number one, it's a good mixer, but also you can get it's that great taste. Actually, not a great taste. It's a flavor that doesn't have any sugar in it, and you're like, that's it. That's you're like, it's a very low investment.